Welcome to the Festival of Storytellers.
I can't tell you how excited I am to be on right now. It's been a couple of weeks of excitement, getting prepared, and I've done a lot of things in my life, but this has got to be close to the top.
Thank you, and Reader's Magnet, and thank you, John, for putting this forth and taking the chance on us authors in presenting this out to the world.
I've enjoyed this immensely, Joanne.
Ellie, so have I. Thank you for who you are, and thank you, Reader's Magnet. You all are beautiful, and you've worked so very hard, and we are blessed.
We are.
I thank everybody that's involved with this process, because we know writers need readers and writers need publishers. We thank Reader's Magnet and everybody that's involved. I love Reader's Magnet. They say, we share your stories with the world.
Good evening, this is Daniel Harry. I am the author of The Jesus Ring, Shadows, and we've changed the name of Shadows to Shadows, The Myth Awakens, and Ramblings of an Old Poot. And I have two more coming up. Should be released sometime in early 2022. We're probably going to dwell mostly on the Jesus Ring tonight. I might ask you some questions. So if you got time to answer, then you tell me what you think the end times. See if there's any similarity to the end times as there are in Revelation, the book of Revelation. I guess I'll show you my books first. This is the Jesus Ring. This is Shadows. And again, we'll be changing the name to The Myth or Awakens, simply because there's about 10 trillion shadows out there. This is the Ramblings of an Old Poot, if I can get it up there straight. Ramblings of an Old Poot is a bunch of short stories that I put together, humorous short stories. Well, they are to me, but it's about how life teaches you lessons when you're not expecting a lesson. And I'm sure every one of us have gone through that. The Jesus Ring, if we can show the cover, Leanne. I have a new stage manager tonight, and I've worked with her before, and she's really good. So, okay, I'll tell you what, let's do. We also have almost completed a new book trailer video for the Jesus Ring, and let's play that now. We still have to tweak it a little bit, but it's looking pretty good. So, Leanne, if you would play the, there you go. I'm afraid the audio is not there.
The apocalypse that was foretold isn't coming. It's here. An ancient ring once worn by Jesus washes onto the Florida shoreline. Peter Christian finds the ring and places it on his finger and knows he has been chosen. The ring heals Peter and changes him to a 9 feet tall golden giant with the strength of 10. This is our last chance. If there aren't enough faithful, God washes his hands of mankind. Satan's harvesters, huge carnivorous beasts that feed on the unfaithful, will be coming soon. Satan cannot harm the faithful, but he can seduce the unfaithful to do his bidding. Satan's lieutenants have gained high positions in the governments and military of every country and will cause medical shortages, famine, disease, and other terrible hardships. The world's monetary systems will fail, leaving residents unable to purchase even the most critical of life's necessities without the mark. The ring has chosen a warrior this time. God gives Peter and his apostles the knowledge to manufacture fantastic weapons and life-saving machines in anticipation of the war to come. The faithful are targeted by Satan's new church, and some are executed or beheaded. God will take a bigger presence in the fight. God won't win the battle for the faithful. We have to defeat the Prince of Darkness ourselves. The Battle of Armageddon was promised, and it will be fulfilled.
So there it is. That's the new one. Like I said, we have some tweaks to do. Well, for one thing, they had put the wrong book cover on there. The initial book cover actually showed Peter and Satan basically squaring off against each other, and I opted out of it and decided to go with the current book cover with the showing the shoreline and the seashell with the ring resting against the shell, with God's power separating the dark storm and the white storm. There we go. Okay, this is the cover now, and Leanne, would you go back to the one with Peter and Satan squaring off at each other? There you go. Thank you. Now like I said, we kind of voted on what cover to use. Basically, I designed both covers, and we decided to choose the current one, the one with the seashell in. And basically, the seashell is the shoreline is because that's where the ring washed up on, was the Florida shoreline, in search of the chosen one. And Peter Christian was the chosen one. He is basically the swivel for when Armageddon, or the events leading to Armageddon, begin. So this is one of the reasons I went with this cover to begin with. Like I said, you just basically you're seeing two storms there, a white storm and a black storm, with the ring and God's power separating the two. Hopefully we'll win this one, because we sure can't surrender. Now I wanted to basically read a little excerpt from the book, and this is right after Peter finds the ring. The night before, hours after placing the ring on his finger, Peter had dreamed of the origin of the ring. His vision began as if he were watching from another's viewpoint as two neutron stars revolved around one another. The twin neutron stars circled each other ever closer. They moved faster and faster, their extreme gravities pulling at each other. Each star was only 12 miles across, with density so great, a spoonful of material had the mass of 1 billion tons. Their crusts were smooth, solid, and 10 billion times stronger than steel. Now, this is true. This is fact. This is what neutron stars do. They're extremely dense and extremely powerful. But the density and the gravities on them is what makes them so dangerous to each other. When they reached a proximity of 200 miles apart, they revolved around each other at 30 times per second. The gap between the two lessened until the revolutions reached 2,000 orbits per second. Then they collided. Intense bursts of gamma rays emitted as shock waves rushed through the jets of matter funneled out of the poles during the monumental impact of the collision. Gold, silver, platinum, palladium, uranium, all the metals heavier than iron, the stuff of modern man's wealth, were produced from this collision. Now this is true. This is true science. The neutron stars basically make all the heavy. That's where all the heavy metals come from. If you think about the gold, silver, platinum, palladium, all the precious metals here on Earth, they weren't formed here. They were formed from two exploding stars. This is the only way that the atoms can get smashed together to the point where, that they become the heavier metals. The only metals that basically our sun will be able to form is iron. And once it starts forming iron, it's got seconds to live. I'm a big fan of how the universe works. And I don't know if you've ever watched that show or not, but it's quite enjoyable. And we get a lot of, a lot of information, and it's pretty interesting. But that is how the ring was made, was from God bringing two neutron stars together for a collision. That's the true science of it. Now, if we go to the next picture, I hope you like that video. This is just basically one of the advertisements. The apocalypse that was foretold isn't coming, it's here. And that's true, regardless of the book. I honestly believe that the apocalypse is upon us, or is coming sooner rather than later, simply because of the similarity between our worldly current events and the book of Revelation, how it explains, what the events are going to be to lead up to it. The book is a fiction, science fiction, fantasy, Christian fiction. It's kind of all genres that are together, and I can't get rid of my West Texas accent, and I pronounce words the way I want to hear them. So like I said, it's kind of a mixture of all genres. It's not a real loving book like, say, for instance, Left Behind, because that period, I don't think there's going to be any real loving. It's going to affect every man, woman, and child on the earth. And one of the biggest things is taking the mark, because they're going to make it to the point where you either take the mark or you can't eat, you can't get medical supplies, you can't get medical attention. Basically, you can't do anything, because the mark has to be read on you to get basically the necessities of life. One of the things about the book is that God gave Peter these fantastic machines to design and manufacture in anticipation of the lack of food, the lack of medical attention, medical supplies, and basically to keep the faithful healthy, wealthy, and wise during this tribulation. There's I hope it's that way. I hope that we have a champion when it comes down to it, because it's going to be horrific. And evidently, I'm not looking at the camera, and I'm sorry. I was also wanting to read a part of Shadows. My book, Shadows. This book is about is about a mythical monster of the southeastern U.S. American Indian tribes. And it has risen in our modern times. Creatures awakened by a rare meteorological event and has discovered an egress point from its earthly lair to its prey through one of the most common devices used by humans. And that's the science in it too. This is a most unique creature. I don't think that anyone has ever told a story about that. And one of the ideas, where I got the idea from, is I was actually watching a program on the southeastern U.S. American Indian tribes that basically passed through from heading west. I mean, through Alabama, Louisiana, Texas, and this is where this myth that actually comes from. Is the old Indian tribes as they passed through here, following the buffalo herds, and also as they got chased off their hunting grounds down here by the Europeans. But the thing about it is they mentioned a mythical monster called Tepa Tacoma, Atipatcoba. And if you want to Google that, feel free, because it is an actual word that they call this monster, and it literally translates to man eater. And while I was watching that movie, or watching that documentary, this is where I came up with the idea on the book. And it takes place in Livingston, Texas. I'm kind of partial to Texas. I was born and raised in Texas. I left Texas for my time in the military, and then basically came. I've always come back. I've been all over the world and all over the U.S. But like I said, I always come home. But that, like I said, Livingston, Texas is an area where this story takes place. And it's a pretty interesting read because, like I said, you've never heard of a critter like this. And I've had a couple of my readers have actually had to quit in the middle of the book because they said it just terrified them. So it's unfortunate that it scared you that bad because Elena, do you do a lot of research to write the books? I do a tremendous amount of research. All of the sciences that I include in the books, even Shadows, is a lot of meteorological information, and it's all factual. As a matter of fact, I did depend on one of the meteorological weathermen at one of the Houston television stations, and I can't mention which one. I can't tell you who it is because of I was asked not to. So and I did research the mythical monster itself. So it's quite a story. Like I said, you've never read about a critter like this, and I call it critter. Some people call it a monster, a creature, demon, whatever. I like to be kind of the Shadows was written in what I tried to do with my West Texas accent. Some of the people that have read it and know me say, I could tell that you wrote that book, from the first part of it because it sounds just like you. So what I wanted to do, I want to find I got chastised by the editor on this because it's got some humor in it. And the editor said, well, you don't use humor in horror. Well, yeah, you do. I mean, if you've ever read any horror book, Stephen King stuff, whoever, it's all has, some humor in it. You can't stay scared the whole time. The book would be a lot shorter if you didn't. So anyway, she doesn't work for me anymore. So there is humor in it. And I hope if you read it, you enjoy it as much as I enjoyed writing it. Let's go back to the Jesus ring there right quick, because this book was, I don't know if it's an inspiration, whatever. God put his hand on my shoulder. This is a 110,000 word book, and I wrote it in about 3 weeks. The original draft was written in about 3 weeks. And the other 2 books I'm writing now, they're over a year old, and I'm still not finished. So, like I said, you might call it divine intervention to complete a book of that size that quickly. And there wasn't that much editing on it, so it all flowed pretty good. Now, the Ramblings of an Old Poot, if you ever read any of it, again, it's just short stories that I think you'll get a giggle out of, and everybody needs a giggle. And we cover every subject in it from, we'll go to the table of contents. It's a wonderful thing, table of contents. We have Ramblings of an Old Poot. We got The Critter in the Hen House. You aren't what you eat. When the devil comes out, it's usually instant karma. And it is. I'll read you a small excerpt from Ramblings of an Old Poot. Wisdom comes with experience. In my case, it comes from experience gained through pain, followed by a lengthy healing process. Take, for instance, my period of wanting to be a great rodeo and or bareback rider. This is a period when I first gotten out of the military and was still under the delusion that I was invulnerable and immortal. As a youngster, I rode everything from goats to elephants and had successfully lived through all of them without too much injury. I rode the RCA circuit around Central and West Texas, New Mexico, Colorado, and Wyoming, and was fairly successful, not picking up many first places, but finishing in the money often enough to ride in enough events to afford a new truck and the necessary gas to compete. The experience was gained from a show in Amarillo, where I drew a huge bull mixed between a Brahma and a Charolais. Now, most of you don't know what the difference is between a Brahma and a Charolais, but usually Charolais are huge bulls. This one probably went 2,000, 2,500 pounds. Now, one of the things I forgot to mention is that I chewed Red Man tobacco and dipped Copenhagen at the same time. That's a nasty habit. This particular night, I was really excited for the ride. Reflexes were at optimum, and I felt no hesitation in climbing into this behemoth. Most everyone understands that a bull ride is only 8 seconds long to keep from getting disqualified, but you need points from the bull and your performance during those 8 seconds. The good part of this experience is that I covered the bull and ended up winning second place. The bad part is when it was time to dismount this mound of meat, the rosin from the rigging glued itself to my glove, making it very difficult to dismount. as I was literally tied to a huge animal that was so infuriated by me being on his back and raking his shoulder with fixed rowels on my spurs that he continued to buck, shake, and jump. It seems like bulls don't stop bucking when the buzzer goes off. While concentrating on unwelding the rigging from my glove, which still had my hand trapped in it, I forgot to keep my spurs firmly embedded in the bull's side and lost what little control I had of the situation. At this time, I became a flating rag doll, being tossed and jerked in all directions at once. About this time, my body was thrown forward and luckily landed between this monster's horns, as opposed to directly on one of them. Still firmly attached to at the wrist, the bull was so infuriated that I had suddenly blocked his vision that he rammed a gate in the arena, squishing me between the gate and his skull. Thankfully, his horns hit just right on the gate so that the impact only squished the part of my midsection that was beyond the horns. Still excruciating, but not squished in half. At the moment of the squishing, I lost another part of my concentration and swallowed my chaw and my dip, involuntarily, of course. If you've ever swallowed chewing tobacco or dip, you're aware of the instant nausea and your body's reaction to rid itself of the nasty substance. So that's what it did. So there I was, bouncing around in the circles, death grip on the bull's left arm with my right arm, vomiting is still a much cleaner word than vomiting, everything I had eaten for the last 2 months, it seemed, still attached to the huge infuriated mountain of chili meat, and really, really looking for some relief. Anyway, that's part of that. It goes on, but that's the type of stories there are in Ramblings of an Old Poop. I'm sure that there's, and it covers, from time I was a little kid till, being an old poop like I am now. So we got a question from Fairgoer. What or who inspired you to write these kind of stories? And I'm not sure of which one you're talking about. If it is the Jesus ring, well, basically out fishing one morning and enjoying nature, and that's my church is outdoors. I'm sure the fellowship is with the Jesus ring and shadows. Fellowship in the church is a wonderful thing. It really is. But I can't see God's glory sitting in a church. But I do. I really do enjoy being outdoors. As a matter of fact, I'm outdoors all the time. Anyway, when I was fishing out there, I was just marveling at God's wonders that He gives us. The beautiful birds, the fish, the water, the sunrise, all of it. And it came to me that this won't last if once the events of Revelation begin, your enjoyment outside, or a lot of even life, won't be enjoyable anymore. It'll pretty much be over. Now let's see, we got sorry, I'm reading from another fairgoer. Now, the shadows, again, I was inspired by watching a documentary on the Southeast American Indian tribes, Southeast U.S. American Indian tribes, and actually hearing about, their mythical creatures, and it was pretty interesting. But that one stuck with me. The Atipa Tacoba, that one stuck with me, and rest of it just came from harebrained ideas. Fairgoer 1451. What is the hardest part or scene to write in the Jesus ring? I would have to say probably getting the fantastic machines and life-saving devices where people would understand them. You know, basically, God gave Peter and his the other apostles the ability to take his designs, God's designs, and put them on paper and manufacture them, because God knows all the secrets of the universe, and he loaned some of the secrets to Peter and his other apostles to build these machines, and they're all feasible. The the food product, the molecular movement, like for the food processors, they're, that's been done for years. IBM did it one time. They moved molecules around to spell IBM. It was microscopic, but they proved it could be done. The probably the hardest part or scene to write on the Jesus ring was the final battle, because it took a lot of research to basically manipulate the world around where the final battle would be. It was foretold when the battle would be. So getting every faction set up to come to that area for the final battle was probably the hardest part. And, with Satan manipulating the world's armies around to surround Israel, that was hard to do. That was, and then the final battle itself is it basically kind of heartbreaking because of the millions upon millions of lives that will be lost. They say that those that will be lost will be probably close to half or more of the current population. Well, current population is about 8 billion people. So if you can imagine 4 billion dying in a matter of 3-4 years, then that's true horror. That's true horror. And that was probably the hardest scene to write was the final battle. Getting there, and how Peter and his apostles basically are able to save as many of the faithful, and to get the unfaithful to come back around. And that's part of the book, is trying to get the unfaithful to come back to the faithful, come back to God. And according to the book, they were pretty successful at it, but they didn't get all of them. And those that were faithful, they will be at the mercy of the unfaithful, because Satan has manipulated them to do his bidding to the point where killing other people doesn't mean much. And you can see that in our world today. Our murder rates rise. The people aren't what's the word I'm looking for? If they hear about somebody getting killed, it's like, oh, well, I'm not a gun. I'm not against guns at all. I think the people need them to protect themselves. But by the same token, you see these people that they kill somebody just arbitrarily, and sometimes for just because they hurt their feelings, or cut in front of them on the freeway, or so. That's not godly ways. That's from Satan. I hope I answered that question. The Jesus ring wasn't really hard to write, basically because it felt like I had somebody on my shoulder kind of directing me, and we kind of know who that someone was. I don't like I said, I don't know if it was divine intervention or what, but I really enjoyed writing it, and I hope you'll enjoy reading it. So looks like we're just about to. Look like I got 5 minutes. So if you have any questions, better say so now. Another thing about what inspired me to write these kind of stories, I don't stay in one genre. I don't. I write horror. I write Christian fiction. My Red Tide will basically kind of be, I guess you'd call it a fictional apocalyptic. There you go. And this will be, like I said, we'll be changing the title on it too, because there's 8 billion red tides out there. And this is an interesting book because, and I started writing it before COVID. And it's about a bacteria that comes in, piggybacks in on a small meteorite, and basically affects the water all around the world, and affects only the male mammals. So the women literally have to take over the world and literally have to save mankind. So, like I said, we'll be changing the title on it. So with that, looks like I'm going to have to wrap it up. This is my logo. One of the correct guy made it up doing a comic strip. So I want y'all to take time to go visit my website at danscrivening.com. I'm on eBay. I'm on Twitter, and I'm on All Authors, Goodreads, a bunch of them. And I will be I'm going to have another podcast tomorrow, live stream tomorrow. And then Saturday, between 2 and 3, I will be the author of the hour for the Festival Storytellers and Readers Magnet. So if you can put up with me for a whole hour, we'll come back tomorrow night and put up with me for another 30 minutes, and that'll prime you for Saturday to do a whole hour. So with that, I'm going to go ahead and wrap up before I get turned off. And my books are all at Barnes & Nobles, Amazon, Barnes & Nobles, about any place that sells books, or you can order them online. And I will have a audio book of Shadows coming out within the next 2 or 3 months. I haven't done one for the Jesus Ring yet, and I may do it myself on Ramblings of an Old Poot, if y'all can stand my accent. So with that, I want you all to have a wonderful week. And if I don't see you again, then have a fantastic Thanksgiving and a very Merry Christmas. So with that, thanks for coming.